We're back, and Nicole Neily returns after a bit of a hiatus, I'm ashamed to say. We're always delighted to catch up with her, especially as there are a couple of things she's doing that are of surpassing importance as we speak in particular. Um, Nicole is a woman who has been for a number of years active in the public policy arena. She is these days the president of Parents Defending Education, and she has previously been associated with another terrific group, the Independent Women's Forum. We're catching up with her to talk a little bit about what's going on in education that parents need to be defending against. And I'm so pleased to have her with us. Nicole, welcome back.
Thank you for having me.
So let me start with one that I know is an abiding concern of yours and should be for all of us, and that is the evidence that is accumulating, some of which you have helped, in fact, document, that the Chinese Communist Party has made tremendous inroads into not only our higher education institutions like colleges and universities with their Confucius Institute, but even down in the K through 12 education arena. What on earth is that about? How are they doing it, and to what end?
Sure. So we heard many years ago when Secretary Pompeo and Secretary DeVos were in office about Confucius institutes at universities, as you mentioned. But there was a corollary program called Confucius Classrooms that put these programs into K-12 schools, and some of them were operated in tandem with the universities. And so this would be teachers coming over, teaching in K-12 schools, providing books, materials. In some cases, they would provide money to districts. In other cases, the districts would actually pay for the privilege of having these teachers and these materials, which is really astonishing. And the amount of money that was
Chinese nationals are coming in to teach in American schools, a Chinese curriculum, basically?
Yes. And as you and I know, it's very difficult to get an exit visa from China unless you have party authority and approval of the state. And so these are not just innocent kindergarten teachers that are coming over, sadly. And then when they are in classrooms, as much as we have heard over the past several years, Randy Weingarten screaming about teaching true history, for some reason, I suspect that our children are not learning about Tiananmen, Tibet, Taiwan, things like that that are important to you and I. But it is just a straight up soft power play. The other interesting thing to me is, as part of this, we have been documenting very closely with the Thomas Jefferson School for Science and Technology in Fairfax County, Virginia, that they were actually taking intellectual property from American schools. TJ was at one time America's #1 high school in science and technology STEM country in school in the country. But they were handing over lesson plans, floor plans, student research projects. And so it was, we have seen this in many other industries, right, that have operated in China. But that this was, for so many, perhaps well-intentioned, but not terribly bright administrators, they thought they were getting a good deal from this. And as you and I know, the People's Republic of China does not do things out of the goodness of their hearts. They do things with an end goal in mind. And we have allowed ourselves to be exploited.
And Nikki, you understand, I know, what the end they have in mind is. And that would be the end of America, is it not? Is that being insinuated, do you think, into the actual pedagogy in our school systems? Or are they confining themselves to just, seeing who are bright young students that they can recruit into their revolutionary agenda, or both?
I think it's kind of an all of the above. About several years ago, Xi Jinping said he had a goal of bringing 50,000 American students over to China on little fully all expense paid junkets. And so it is one of those. You can see how wonderful the Chinese communist model is versus how ugly and awful and oppressive the American free market capitalist system is. So I do think there is a plot to try and undermine our values. As well as, I think there are so many things going on. It is as much as now, I'm grateful that Washington is waking up now and we're concerned about these land purchases and these various industries. But I want to remind Congress and elected officials that our most precious commodity is our children, and we cannot neglect that, and we cannot turn a blind eye to our schools.
Well, and worse, we know that under the Marxist doctrine, especially the cultural Marxist doctrine of Mao, that getting their hands on kids to essentially recruit them, as I say, into the revolution and to turn them against their families and their government, for that matter, is all part of the playbook in what you've rightly called little red classrooms. Thank you for raising attention about this. What can parents do if they are concerned about this kind of practice?
We've been trying to document where these programs have taken place. So in our report that we released, we identified 143 districts across the country, including 20 that were near military bases that had these programs in place in the wake of Secretary Pompeo and Secretary DeVos's efforts in between 2018 and 2020. Some of these programs closed. Some of them went underground. And so I think we're very much in a see something, say something era. If you have this is not to say that all Chinese language programs are bad, but we do think that parents should start to ask questions. Where is this coming from? What memorandums of understanding are in place? Where are the teachers coming from? Sadly, there is a very big difference between a teacher coming from Taiwan and a teacher coming from Beijing. And so we just want families to be able to make informed decisions about what their children are being exposed to. Personally, in my family, if I knew that there was a communist teacher teaching my child, I would probably put my child in a Spanish or a French class instead. Other families might not feel as strongly, but this is, in my mind, a national security issue as well as an American issue. And I want people to know that just because you drop your child at a schoolhouse gate doesn't mean that they are immune from any of these problems.
Well, speaking of which, and let me just say, defendingeducation.org is your website, I believe.
Defendinged.org.
Excuse me, defendinged.org, correct. Check it out for little red classrooms, among other things. But Nikki, speaking of dropping kids off at school and hoping all will be well, one of the other things that I've just been attuned to in the course of a recent trip to Texas is this problem of pornography being disseminated in schools across the country. And I met with a fellow by the name of Chad Green, who was on the school board of McKinney County in Texas, the told most conservative county in the state. And he told me about, the effort to get pornography out of the libraries. And they took them out of the library eventually, apparently, but they put them into the classrooms as pornographic material that they're exposing even very young children to. Is this a thing? Is this a problem that parents defending education are defending against?
It is. And it's something that when we started this in 2021, I would never have thought that this would be a battle we have to fight. It's common sense. You don't really want dirty books in classrooms with small children. And it is astonishing when you think that these activists are so bound and determined to rip innocence away from young children, down to kindergarten, first grade. Children who still believe in the tooth fairy and Santa Claus are being exposed to these extremely graphic ideas under the guise of inclusivity. And over the past several years, as we have seen parents raise alarms saying, I'm not comfortable with this doesn't comport with my family values, they were called book burners. They were compared to being the Nazis in 1938. This is not a book burning issue. This is not a book banning issue. This is a curation issue. We want age appropriate quality materials in our classrooms. And for parents to be dragged for that, under the Biden administration, they had what they called a book ban czar. The Office for Civil Rights of the Department of Education opened investigations into districts that had the temerity to remove some of these explicit books from classrooms as an effort to chill the other schools and other districts from doing the same. And so we're very grateful that the Trump administration terminated that position, closed those investigations, and said, no, we actually want to listen to what families desire and demand in classrooms.
And I've heard this going back to the other topic A, is a feature of TikTok as well, this sort of sexualizing of young people and in that case, doing it with that highly addictive Chinese Communist Party owned and operated, I believe, political warfare instrument. Can you just say a word, and we've got 2 minutes, about what it is doing to these kids that they're being sexualized in this fashion, whether it's, I guess, the transgender agenda or simply, confusing them about sexuality, alienating them from their families and the like.
I think, to tie it back to the CCP discussion is particularly relevant because it is driving a wedge between a child and their parents. It is destroying that family unit. That is the smallest unit of government. And once that relationship is severed, it's very difficult to replace. So who would step in? What would step in? It would be the all-seeing, all-knowing government that would provide you a better path, a safer path, support you. You don't need, I mean, I think back to the Obama years and the Life of Julia video where it's the government is providing for you from cradle to grave. That is deeply chilling. And, it's interesting right now, there's a Supreme Court case that's going to be argued before SCOTUS in April of this year. It's actually Muslim families that are angry at Montgomery County, Maryland, for forcing these dirty books on their children. And so this is not a left-right issue. This is an issue of preserving the family and allowing people to direct the care and upbringing of their children. And so that's why we will stand to the void and we will defend them.
Yeah, well, I think you're absolutely right. It should be nonpartisan. It should be without respect to ideology. But make no mistake, folks, it is about a Marxist cultural takedown of, as you say, that core institution of the family in America. God bless you, Nicole Neily, and the work you're doing at Parents Defending Education. Defendinged.org is where you can find out much more about it, and I encourage you to do so. Come back to us with updates. It's encouraging to hear the SCOTUS is going to take this up. We'll be following that with your help.